we got promoted. So, funny enough, made recently a video talking about my first 10 months into Jiu Jitsu, and then yesterday evening ended up getting promoted to blue belt. So, kind of something that I guess it wasn't like a. I don't want to say it wasn't not a special thing, but I don't know. I don't really feel like it really changed anything. Kind of just shown some work that I put in the past 10 months, which granted, I have a pretty good wrestling background, probably 8 to 10 years of wrestling background, where I was pretty competitive and some more time doing more like coaching and stuff like that. So it's not like I kind of went into jiu-jitsu with no experience whatsoever, but had that grappling background, so I think that kind of helped with just being able to pick up on things. But just kind of wanted to briefly touch on, like, I don't know, I guess my thoughts in terms of getting my blue belt, and then kind of, I guess, what are the thoughts going forward. I like to preface it in saying that for me, jiu-jitsu is a little bit more towards the competitive side. Like, my goals and aspirations are to be able to try to compete more, and also try to get at those higher competitive levels. So in terms of like a traditional, like maybe hobbyist or something like that, things can just be viewed as differently. And I don't think that's a good or bad thing. It's just, also knowing like, okay, if these are my goals, how am I looking at it? As opposed to maybe someone else, they probably won't be looking at it as the same, right? I didn't really feel like, I don't know, wasn't like a crazy special thing getting the blue belt. Kind of would always joke around with some of the people there of I was going to be a white belt forever, because I feel like with wrestling background especially, people kind of just have this idea of like, oh, he's a wrestler, or like they're a wrestler, or she's a wrestler, whatever the case is. I don't know, it makes it kind of weird, I guess. But really, for the past, like, as soon as I started into jiu-jitsu, my goal was to try to like learn as much jiu-jitsu as I can, and really kind of be just open-minded about learning jiu-jitsu, and not just solely relying on wrestling to do everything. So it's been really great experience to be able to just dive in and try to learn as much as I can. And I think the biggest takeaway that I've had over these past 10 months at white belt, and then I'm kind of continuing on going forward, is just going to be, it's not really just kind of showing up, I guess. It's what are the intentions that I have, behind every time I train, whether watching jiu-jitsu, studying jiu-jitsu. It's like, what are those intentions? I think sometimes the thought process of like, oh, as long as you just show up, you're going to get your next belt promotion, or as long as you show up, you'll get your black belt one day and whatnot. And I think that kind of makes it like I don't know, it kind of, in my eyes, makes it difficult to understand that. And again, I'm kind of looking at more towards like the competitive side of things, and especially having my wrestling background, I look at it like it's really not just about showing up. It's about what are the intentions you have every single day, and what's the actual work that you're putting in. Because you can show up every day but not put any type of work in, and you're really not going to see any improvements, or you're not going to try to really advance yourself as much as you could. So every day I'm trying to always be checking in with myself and saying, okay, what are my intentions for today? What are my intentions for this week, for this month? Like, what are my intentions, and how am I going about that? And I actually really think like that's helped me with my jiu-jitsu in terms of like accelerate that learning. Granted, again, I know I have a wrestling background, and a lot of people will just automatically say like, oh, it's because you wrestled. Oh, it's because you wrestled. And it's like, yes, I understand that, but at the same time, like, I truly do believe, and I'm not going to sell myself short, like, my intentions were always like, I'm going to try to learn as much as I can. I'm going to try to develop as much as I can, and use that to really kind of hope, propel myself forward at a faster rate, because my goals are to be more competitive. So I do have to look at it a different way. Like, I'm not, looking at it as just a hobbyist. And there's nothing wrong with being just a hobbyist, but for me personally, and what my goals and aspirations are, like there has to be much more intention behind it, because the sport is growing so quickly that if you want to try to get to that level, in my opinion, like, you can't just, come in and show up every single day and expect to be good. When it comes to the belts too, like, I think, nothing changes too after the fact. Like, the goal is still to continue to learn and get better, especially coming from my wrestling background. I mean, there was never like any belts, anything like that. So just, nothing really changed. Like, it was always just getting as good as I can, and working as hard as I can. So, excited, to get my blue belt, but at the same time, nothing really changes for me. Again, I am kind of doing a little bit more in the no-gi scene than as opposed to the gi, but I do train in the gi a little bit here and there too. Yeah, it's been pretty great so far. And I kind of just wanted to, touch base on getting my blue belt, and kind of excited to keep pushing myself and keep trying to develop it as much as I can. And also kind of just, looking forward to, like, I really want to get to the point where I've developed some sustainable kind of just overall training. When I look at it, I do think kind of at the white belt, like, especially being my first year into Jiu Jitsu and kind of getting in more into competitions and stuff like that, like, I had these big waves of up and down, and it can be kind of draining on you, because you're sometimes feeling like you're doing so well, you're training a lot, other times where you drop down and training not as much as you'd like, things aren't going well, you feel like. So it's hard to kind of control those waves. But now, as I look forward, like, my main goal is to really build kind of like a sustainable schedule for myself, to be able to develop continuously, on a nice increase, as opposed to maybe having those big ups and downs, just because for me it kind of does take a mental toll on me. And granted, I don't just do jiu-jitsu, like, a full-time job, have a wife, have different things going on, so it's not like my entire life is wrapped solely around jiu-jitsu. So with taking a look at, like, what am I trying to do to build something that's sustainable, so you don't get to that burnout stage, or just kind of ride those emotions of ups and downs. So that's something I'm looking forward to, really just getting dialed in going forward, and as I start continuing to go forward. And again, yeah, the philosophy doesn't change. I really think, like, it just comes down to what intentions I have behind every single day, week, months at a time, and just using that to really, accelerate myself and develop. I'm not really trying to, compare myself to anybody else. I'm kind of trying to, be on my own journey, and trying to, for me, just get as good as I can. And only comparing myself, like, where I was at a year ago, or not even 10 months ago. So it's kind of crazy to see. I kind of wish I had done, like, videos just talking about what it was like at the beginning, because even for me now, it's kind of hard to remember, like, okay, where was I at 10 months ago. I kind of remember, like, what it was like, but yeah, hopefully kind of continue making some videos just to be able to kind of track my progress and kind of look back to and see what things look like. But yeah, just want to hop on, make a quick video. Again, yeah, guess we're a blue belt now, so I can't sandbag any tournaments now, which I never did. I was always, for the most part, going into at least intermediate, if not advanced divisions, where I've been sitting at for the most part on it. But